everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my sewing room. This week we are finishing up my crazy sparkly princess core dress, which you can see part of right here. So I'm picking up right after I left off with last week's video. So if you haven't seen last week's video, I will link that down below in the description. But this week we are just kind of assembling everything, doing the sleeves, doing the finishing, and of course wearing this absolutely awesome princess dress. So at this point, the skirt is basically all together. It has been waiting for the bodice, which the bodice is now together. And first thing, before I attach the bodice to the skirt, is that I should probably try on the bodice to make sure that it works. While I'm doing that, I think I might also at least take a measurement for the straps, because I do need to add the straps so that I can do the sleeves, so that I can, you know, finish the dress. But the straps are pretty important because once I have the straps on, I can also probably go ahead and just like finish off the neckline. So yeah, let's go ahead and try this bodice on and see if it works. All right, I have the bodice on, and as you can see, I have stand-in shoulder straps. My straps are going to be probably about the width of this blue one. This one's a little bit narrower, but it was what I had in my stash of like pre-cut ribbons. And so yeah, it's probably just gonna be pretty similar to this, where it's attached in on the back, just like that, and it's gonna come over and just get attached in right here. So I am going to pin the straps in place so that I know how long those need to be, and that way I can also kind of feel the adjustments. Like I can already feel I have pinned this in too loosely, because do you see how it is loose right up there? So for me personally, straps falling off my shoulders is like #1 pet peeve of clothing probably. So I am going to make these straps like as tight as I possibly can. And probably part of that will also be angling the back just a little bit too, so that it's like fitted both here and over here, as opposed to right now it's kind of fitted here, but not here. And I think that by angling potentially both in back and front, that will probably help that. And then of course the puffed sleeve is going to get attached to that. It's going to have elastic in the band kind of around the elbow, and I think I'm going to have it flare out at the bottom so that it's like puff come together flare just a little bit, like probably about 2 inches. So yeah, that is my plan there. I am having one fit issue. Well, no, 2 fit issues. They're both ones that I experienced with the mock-up as well, and I guess didn't take them far enough. One of them is that this pinch point right here definitely needs to come in tighter. So I'm gonna put a little pin in there, but I think we're going to be taking out actually a full inch up at the top, like a ½ inch on either side, just to make that even more fitted, because I really want that nice and fitted up here. And then the other thing that I'm surprised is still an issue is, again, like the front length seems like it is coming just that hair bit past my natural waist, which is perfect. We need the seam allowance. However, the back is still going way too long, and that's even with the straps on now. I mean, this is at least an inch, I think, down here, and I want that to be a ½ inch. So we are going to wind up cutting even more of the back off, reserging the bottom of the back to get rid of that. Another thing that I meant to do and then forgot to, I talked about kind of doing something similar in the last video, which is in my darts, I did snip away all of the sequins so that the sequins wouldn't be taking up bulk within the darts, and the, you know, the darts would be nice and smooth. What I forgot to actually do was to cut out the sequins that are in the seam allowances and therefore are now on the inside of the bodice. So that's something you definitely don't want, because that's going to be itchy in there. Like I'm wearing a camisole right now, but I can still feel, especially in the armpit, that it is itchy. Another thing that I do plan to do with this, and that I did with my strawberry dress but did not mention in the video because I did it a few months after I had made the strawberry dress, is I found a little trick for like itchy fabrics, because a lot of times it kind of feels like there's not much you can do in the armpit or arm's eye area, especially when you're talking about itchy or like sequin especially type fabrics, and they just seem like they're going to itch or be uncomfortable, pokey, etc. forever. But if you go to Joann's or your local fabric store and you get a little bit of minky fabric, you could probably do this with fleece as well, but I had minky laying around already, so that's what I used. You cut little strips of the minky and you can actually just whip stitch, like fold it over like it's binding on the inside of the arm's eye. I'll show you how to do this later, but you just put it over the arm's eye seam allowance and whip that all down, covering the entire seam allowance area, and suddenly no more poking. So highly, highly recommend doing that. If you are struggling with pokey bits inside your bodice, especially in the armpits or somewhere like that where it is sensitive, try giving some minky or fleece or whatever your favorite soft fabric is a little try, make some binding out of that, and I think your problem will go away. So anyway, I am going to fix these little bit of fit issues, but once I cut off the extra length in the back, I think I can go ahead and I might attach this into the skirt. We'll see. I might do straps first. I haven't quite decided. So I've made the changes that I was talking to you about, like taking up the back and taking in the center front. I have not yet cut away the extra fabric in the center front because I figure I probably should try it on one more time, and then I can go ahead and cut that away. And at that point, I will also then be able to stitch down the little pleat tucks that are in the center front here. I haven't done that yet because like I had to actually take 2 of them out to be able to get to the center front area to take that in. So yeah, and then yeah, I did cut off the back. I don't remember how much it was. I think I already threw it away, but I believe in the center back I actually cut off a good like 3/4 of an inch and then kind of tapered it out from there. I have also made straps now based on the ribbon dimensions that I had done. So there are 2 straps. You can see that the fronts are in fact angled like I kind of thought they were. The backs are just straight. And yeah, there's out of all 4 of the fabric layers. So you can see all of that there. Sorry about the dog barking. And now these get attached into the bodice, and then I will try it back on to make sure that everything is fitting right. And at that point, I think I will go ahead and attach it into the skirt. That dog barks a lot. So here is the bodice. I have a couple of tiny more tweaks that I need to make now that I have the straps on. And one of them is that I guess my right shoulder must be like taller than my left shoulder because I cut both straps the same, even though I had noticed that with the ribbons, I think it was right one, was a tiny bit longer, but I cut them both to the shorter length, but this one needs to be taken in even more. So the right one is fine, it's a good length, but this one I've got a tiny little bit pinned out here. I think about like 1/4 of an inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch that needs to come out right here. The other thing that I did is I actually decided to drop the neckline down just a little bit. Now already like I had still had to take down the seam allowance, but I have folded out about 3/4 of an inch here instead of like 3/8 of an inch, which is probably what the seam allowance would be with the binding. So I'm just taking it down a little bit, not from the center. I like where the center is, but I felt like it was just coming up too much right here. So yeah, everything else though I think looks really good. To put it on, I did sew it shut. So taking it off is going to be interesting. I was able to put it on fine, even sewn shut, which is good because I do kind of prefer to be able to like put on a dress and not have to use the zipper. But like with my strawberry dress, for example, I don't use the zipper to put it on. I do undo the zipper to take it off. So taking this off might be interesting, especially now that there's a few pins in here. Hopefully this is gonna work. And then I do still have to serge out the excess right here. Now that I know that this is fitting really, really nicely, I can go ahead and take that out. But yeah, getting out of this might be a little bit interesting. So what this means though is that also once I have fixed this little bit of strap, I can go ahead and I can put the binding around the neckline and I can attach the skirt. I kept going back and forth whether I want to attach a skirt or do the sleeves next. Obviously without the giant poofy skirt attached, it is going to be easier to get to the sleeves and do all of that. But at the same time, I really want to be able to put this zipper in, and I can't do that until I have the skirt attached. So I think that's why that's going to happen next after the binding. But yeah, we are getting a lot closer. So as you can see, I have now serged off the excess from the center front right here, and I have also put the binding, at least one side of the binding, on everywhere. I actually decided that I was going to use separate strips of binding for the straps than I did for the front and also for the back, because that allowed me to get these like really, really sharp corners in there and dealing with like the seam allowances going every which way, it was just going to be easier doing that. And then basically what I did was I just tucked the ends in underneath right in there and overlapped them. And so now I'm going to hand stitch all of this binding done, and then the whole neckline area will be done. It'll be ready to be attached to the skirt or get sleeves, etc. The skirt and the bodice are now connected, and that was really just like pulling up the gathering stitches that I had already done, fitting it to the bodice, sewing it in place with a regular stitch, etc. I have not yet done the zipper part, so that kind of is next, is doing the zipper and then obviously closing up this side of the skirt. But my sewing time this morning actually started during my Patreon chat. I have a chat once a month for my patrons at the Romantic, Victorian, and Edwardian level tiers. So if you're ever interested in just like chatting and hanging out, check out my Patreon down in the description below. But yeah, we were doing our monthly Patreon chat this morning, and so I couldn't do stuff that I'd have to film like the zipper. So I decided to move on to the sleeve mock-up. So this is my sleeve mock-up right here, and I think it is working really pretty well. I'm using one of my trusty sleeve patterns for this, for puffed sleeves. It is Simplicity 1728. It's this one from, I think that's from Mirror Mirror, and it makes a great puffed sleeve. I do extend it a little bit, but to be honest, I think I actually extended it too much. So I sized it up to my size based on like the width and the top, but I had notes on the pattern. I don't remember what I last used this pattern for because I've used this a lot. I had a note on the pattern to extend the bottom by 2 inches, and I made it so that it's 2 inches longer below where I had drawn in the casing line, which will be an elastic casing. And I don't like it that long because it dawned on me after I put it together and tried it on that this isn't going to have like a hem. Most of these fabrics, 2 of these fabrics, the mesh ones, they don't need hems at all. And then the lame is going to get a rolled hem on the serger. So it's not going to have anything actually like folded up and taken away, you know, lengthwise. So I think I just want to cut this about 1 inch shorter, and then that will be great. So it'll have added 1 inch to the pattern to actually extend it instead of 2 inches. But yeah, I think that this volume is pretty nice. Part of me almost wants to go for bigger. But I also, between A, the fabric that I have left, and B, the fact that the fabric that I have is a little bit more weighty to it because of the sequins, I worry that if it does go much bigger, it will just kind of collapse. I made this out of organza that was left over from Barbie because I wanted to kind of see what that puffiness would look like, so I couldn't make it out of like cotton. None of these fabrics are organza, but they all kind of act in a similar way, the lame and the mesh. So yeah, I'm a little bit torn whether I just want to make it like slightly larger around, basically, which would make the poof bigger. I could also move the casing line down 1 inch instead of cutting off from the bottom. I might actually do that. Maybe I will. Okay, I think I am gonna make the sleeve just a little bit bigger, like little. We're talking like probably moving that casing down the 1 inch, so it'll be a slightly bigger poof this way. And then I think I will add probably 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches, kind of to the center area to make the poof bigger that way. And hopefully that will fit on my fabric. If it doesn't, obviously I'm not going to be able to go with that slightly bigger, but I think that's a nice size. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and cut 6 of these out because there's 3 layers, 2 sleeves. So I'm gonna go cut 6 pieces out and put them together, and hopefully they'll fit on well. I don't tend to actually like attach a big puff sleeve like this for a mock-up because puff sleeves are very amenable. Like you can kind of just put them on however you need to. So I'm gonna go ahead and make them out of the actual fabric first, then set them, and then if they need to be rotated a little, I can do it from there. But yeah, let's go cut a whole lot more sequins. So one thing that I'm having to do with the sleeves, even though I had bought that extra piece of fabric of the lame, it wasn't quite long enough. So if you notice right here where like the sequin fabric looks like it is going off of the lame, that is because I cut this edge just like the sequins, which is the bottom edge, and I cut that edge, the top edge, just like the sequins, but the actual like underarm seam here is going to wind up being shorter. So what I'm probably going to do, because I don't need all of that length in the sleeve, if you remember it was very puffy, is I can actually take a little tuck right here in the outer, and also probably the glitter. I haven't cut that one yet, but I'm pretty sure I have enough of the glitter for doing this. So I can take a little tuck right there, and that will allow me to still have like all of the poof that I cut into here, but the innermost fabric, the lame, isn't going to be like quite as poofed because it's going to be what, like 1.25 inches short. So yeah, pretty close. Hopefully I'll be able to do the outer out of like the glitter like the same amount as the outer, but I guess we'll see in a second. So this is what I'm talking about right here. I've created these little tucks in the side in both the glitter layer and the sequin layer because the glitter layer was large enough to cut. And when it's laying flat, it creates this sort of like weird ripple. But when you make it round, I'm going to see if I can do this with one hand. I probably can't. That kind of just disappears into the poof of the sleeve is basically what I'm trying to say. So yeah, right now what I'm going to do is I am going to serge around 3 of these sides. This side, that side, that side, and at the same time, or rather first really, I'm going to use the rolled hem on my serger on the lame on the bottom side right here, because I have to do that first or else it will go into the seam. I debated about treating like below where the elastic's going to be as a separate full layer on the bottom part here, just so that I could get like 3 layers of ruffles kind of, but to be honest, I think I more want to keep them as one ruffle, and if they kind of hang together, fine. If they don't, fine. So that's why like I'm not going to do my rolled hem on all 3 layers together. I am going to do it just on the lame. Well, the lame, but I don't care if under the arm they all wind up getting treated together, if that makes sense. And then once everything is serged, then I'm going to take some bias tape and I'm going to make a channel 3 inches up from the edge on the underside, of course, and that channel is going to be where the elastic runs through. So this is what the sleeve looks like currently. I have run the gathering stitches at the top, and I have also put the bias tape channel on the inside of the little like elastic channel thing. So now I am going to thread the elastic that I just had to run out to Joann's and get, and I'm going to thread it through here with probably a safety pin because it's too wide of an elastic for using a bodkin, unfortunately, but I'll thread it through, and as I'm doing that, I'm probably going to go ahead and secure it at this end, or else I'll do my safety pin trick and like pin the end out here just so it doesn't slip in, because this is a really, really big area that's going to get gathered on that elastic. And then once I pull it out the other end and I can secure both, I'm just going to sew across the bias tape channel on both ends, and then I'm going to put the sleeve together, like ends, you know, together, so right sides together, so that I can actually turn it into a sleeve. The elastic is now in. I've left little bits of extra elastic on the outsides of the channel here after sewing it in place, just in case this winds up being too tight. I have what, like about 3/8 inch on each side lee room, so like about 3/4 inch. I did put this around my arm, just like kind of holding it closed before I sewed it shut over here, and it does seem comfy and it seems like it'll stay up, so that's good. Now I can sew up the side seams of the sleeve here and set it into the bodice. We have sleeves. I think they're looking super, super cute. I also felt like it was in need of a sash or something like that. So this is literally just a piece of the glitter tool, like a long strip of it. And I haven't even cut off like the weird bits that are in the back on the tails, but I thought that looked really, really cute. So yeah, it is almost done. At this point, all that is left is that I still do need to put the zipper in the side and then like finish up the skirt sections below where the zipper is, because that has to get joined together really after the zipper goes in. It's just easier. And then I also need to do the hem on the cotton and the lame layer. And we can see we've got sewing buddies today who are chair thieves, and I have to keep her away from the tool because she eats tulle. If you have a cat, do they eat tulle? Or is my cat just weird? Also, Dora looks really great in my sleeve mock-up. Dora, are you stuck? Are you stuck in my sleeve? What are you doing, Dora? She's purring. I just thought you should know. In case you think my cat's being tortured, she's purring right now. It is now time to do the zipper on the dress. So that means that I am going to go back to that pocket and zipper video, which at this point has actually already come out. So I will link that video down below in the description and also right up here if you want to hop over and watch that if you haven't seen that yet. And I will be back with you to show you then the rest of the dress and the reveal and everything. And ta-da! Just like that, my zipper is in. All of my skirt layers are sewn together, and that means there is one final step to do on this dress, which is hemming it. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on, check the hem in the mirror, and just see if it is uneven or not. It is a circle skirt. I did let it hang out for like days at this point, because basically every time that I have finished a step in the evening, I've hung it back up on the dress form. So all of that bias stretch has definitely hung out and stretched out of the circle skirt layers at this point. I'm kind of hoping that they're relatively even, because it would be super nice if I could just, I'm going to turn up the cotton layer, so that's just going to get a little narrow double turn, and then the lame layer is going to get serged off. If there's uneven parts of the other two mesh layers, those are literally just going to get cut off. Those don't need to be finished because mesh doesn't fray. I love mesh and tulle for that reason. They don't fray. So yeah, let's go ahead. I'll check this in the mirror. I probably won't have much to show you of it, but I'm going to go ahead and hem it, and then hopefully this dress will be done. Okay, so ignore my feet and the floor and everything like that, because the floor is incredibly messy, but I'm looking at the hem, and it seems like the only layer that really fell out is the lame. So I think you can see like back here, the lame is super, super long. I noticed there was another area, yeah, like right up front here, the lame is really long, and back there. So there's a few areas where the lame really needs to get cut down, but I think all of the other layers look pretty even. So I think I can just keep them as is and just like turn up the cotton hem. It's just the lame that really needs attention. As you can see, both hems are now complete, so it is time to go get dressed. I thought it might be fun to do the rest of this outro, etc. here at the park. I have been shooting at Point Defiance Rose Garden, which is one of my favorite places to go to shoot really, really pretty pictures. And so I hope you don't mind the bird that is pretty constantly that in the background. But overall, I am really, really happy with how this dress turned out. Now, the one thing that I did not have time to do before this shoot was to put the minky around the armpits and possibly around inside the elastic here. Though in hindsight, I don't know if that would actually work inside the elastic, because I do Need it to stretch. There's a bunny over there. Also, no, you can't see it anymore, but there was a deer behind me as I was setting up this shot. I just love the wildlife that lives at this park. But yeah, I haven't had time to add the minky yet. And when I was trying it on earlier, I thought that it really bothered me. But actually, as I've been here in the park, it has not bothered me. So I do still plan to add the minky. If I go ahead and do that, I'll just do a whole separate little Saturday video about how to make things more comfortable if they are scratchy on the inside. And I'll just show you exactly what I do with that. But yeah, other than that, the dress is exactly what I wanted and I'm very, very happy with it. I do also kind of wish that the glitter tulle tail was a little longer on the sash, but that was all I had left. So I was really maximizing my fabric. But yeah, overall, it feels so princessy and so fun. Definitely princess core, and definitely I can like see my inspirations from Teuta Matoshi and from Fairy Tong London in this dress. It's like a combo of them plus my own spin. So yeah, and I already got lots of compliments as I was walking around the park wearing this dress and taking my pictures. By the way, if you're ever curious about how I take my own pictures or footage for you guys, like as I'm out and about, I have actually done a video on that. So I'll link that video down below in the description if you are interested in how to take your own pictures as you are doing your costume stuff, because it's so important to get those costumes documented, and you can do it entirely on your own. Like, it is not that hard. So yeah, that is going to be it for me for today. Hopefully you have enjoyed this little video series on this project. If you liked this video, please go ahead and click the thumbs up icon. And if you'd like to see more videos like this from me, please go ahead and click subscribe and the little bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. I do post videos here on YouTube at least once a week, with my sewing vlogs like this out on Tuesdays and sometimes additional costuming content out on Saturdays. But I post every day over on my Instagram, so please go follow me on Instagram. That's at LadyRebeccaFashions. And if you'd like to help support all of the work that I do on this channel, I do have a link to my Patreon and my Ko-fi down in the description below, or you can join my YouTube memberships or send me a super thanks here on YouTube right below the video. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my Edwardian level patrons, Mirage, Laura, Jean, and Janelle. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing!